Now, the really funny thing about this blue post is not even 15 minutes ago, I was talking about one of these changes being implemented, and I didn't know anything about it. But trust me, if you're a feral DPS, you're going to absolutely love it. However, if your name's Riani and you're a blood DK, oof, you're not going to like this one. But yes, I'm back here once again looking at some class changes, having already posted 2 videos today. So I'm not going to plug anything. I'm not going to try and get you to like and subscribe, although I am just going to sit here and wait until you do. Oh, we'll get on with it. So as always, these are subject to change. They only affect PvE and have no impact on arenas or battlegrounds, and they're only active for the spec that they're listed under. So firstly, blood DKs. Surprise, surprise, they're finally getting a little bit of a nerf, but also a buff at the same time. So your Raised Dead Ghoul no longer benefits from Vengeance attack power, and neither does your Army of the Dead. Now, what this is basically stopping doing is your army doing ridiculous damage. I'm not sure the Raised Dead Ghoul was that much of an issue, maybe it was, but blood DKs were getting out insane amounts of damage by getting that really, really high Vengeance and then using Army of the Dead. But the good news, blood DKs, is you have had your blood presence damage reduction raised to 12%, where it was 10%, so now you're naturally just going to be taking 2% less damage. So yes, you're going to be dealing a bit less damage, but you're also going to be taking a little bit less damage. For Frost, you've probably already seen or heard that Frost DK since the last round of changes has been absolutely blasting. As in, when you sim it, it is just miles ahead of every other spec, so obviously it was going to change. Now, I had actually seen that this was intentional and Blizzard overbuffed it to encourage people to play it so they could get more data on it, which makes absolute sense. But they have adjusted the mastery, so Frozen Heart's Obliterate and Soul Reaper bonuses are lowered to 20% effectiveness when wielding a two-handed weapon. I did mention what Frozen Heart was in another video. It basically increases the damage dealt by your Frost abilities, but that's not normally Obliterate and Soul Reaper. Those were added as a new addition, so they start benefiting from that. But obviously, for two-handed Frost DKs, it was too strong. So this was always going to happen, and don't worry, Frost DKs are still going to be blasting. So firstly, for Feral, Shattering Blow inside of PvE instance content is now instant cast and doesn't reset your swing timer. Now, if you're wondering how you get Shattering Blow, that's of course from the use of Symbiosis on a warrior. So this is a nice quality of life change. It will equate to a tiny bit of damage if you was putting Symbiosis on a warrior, but if you wasn't, this ain't going to affect you at all anyway. But what will is the duration of predatory swiftness has been raised to 12 seconds where it was 8. Now, literally 15 minutes before starting to record this update, I was talking to a feral druid, and I said, rather than putting nature's swiftness in for the feral druids, even though that's very nice, don't get me wrong, I would have raised the duration of predatory swiftness from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. So I'm absolutely amazed that that's literally what's just happened. Let me explain why this is a big deal. To be competitive as a feral DPS, you really need to be running Dream of Cenarius. So when you cast a Healing Touch on yourself or on someone else, it buffs the next 2 melee abilities. Now, the next 2 melee abilities you always want to be your bleed, so it'll be a Rake and a Rip, or a Rip and a Thrash, whatever you need to put up at that moment in time. But one of them should always be a Rip. But the thing is, to be able to use that Healing Touch, you need Predatory Swiftness to proc. Now, this proc's based off 20% chance per combo point. So if you use 5 combo points, and let's say you do a Savage Roar with 5 combo points, that's guaranteed to give you Predatory Swiftness. Now, you've got 12 seconds to get up to 4 combo points, let's say. That's what you would normally do, to then consume the Predatory Swiftness with an instant cast Healing Touch. Now you've got 2 charges from your Dream of Cenarius. You'll Rake to the 5th combo point and then Rip, and now both of those are buffed. So by adding this 4 seconds might not look like a big deal, but this just really will smooth out the rotation because you've just got that more time to be able to get back to 4 combo points before you then need to consume that Healing Touch. This is an absolutely amazing change, and for the really die-hard feral DPS that can play the spec incredibly well, you're going to appreciate it, but it's not going to make a massive difference to you. But this will make a massive difference in terms of it being approachable to newer players or new players to the spec. So honestly, over the moon with this change. I think it's fantastic. And then for Guardian, it was only a matter of time until Guardian got some more love, and these are not too bad. So firstly, the chance to activate Dream of Cenarius off of a Mangle Bear crit has been raised to 50%. where it was 40%. So that's if you're running Dream of Cenarius, which, yeah, most bears will. The cooldown on Heart of the Wild has been lowered for Guardian Druids only to 3 minutes, where it was 6 minutes. Now, this is actually an insanely good change, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I've not really done that much Druid on the beta. I've messed about a little bit, but I've not gone into the real intricacies of the spec, especially Guardian, because I'm not really much of a Guardian fan anyway. But what this means is, if it's a fight where you're just the off-tank, and most fights last longer than 3 minutes, you'll get 2 uses out of this. Now, if you was to macro it with, let's say, a caster weapon and offhand, where when you pop this, it's going to stick a caster weapon on with, let's say, Jade Spirit on or something like that, you can start blasting out Wraths and Moonfires, and you're going to have more spell power because you've changed your weapon at the same time. Now, this was quite an old school way of using it. So nowadays, it might work out better just to go in cat form. I don't know. So please don't take this as like, how to play your feral tank guide, because it's absolutely not. I've not even tested it. But it does mean if you're just off tanking and you're not needing to do a lot other than taunt every now and again, you can probably live without Dream of Cenarius and getting the self-healing from it, so you could run this instead, which is going to give you more stats anyway, because you get just static stats from it. And again, then there's a couple of times during the fight where you're going to get that 45 seconds where you'll probably be able to pump as hard as another DPS. It just comes down to what's going to work out better, whether it's as a caster or going into cat form. But either way, this is a great change, and I actually really look forward to seeing what Druids do with this. And then another really good one that I've had is Bear Hug. So Bear Hug's a kind of useless ability, I'll be honest with you. It's alright in PvP, but outside of that, it's pretty rubbish. So when Bear Hug's cast on an enemy and they're permanently immune to stun, so basically let's just say all bosses, Bear Hug instead lowers their damage dealt by 10% for 5 seconds. So now this brings that ability online, which is again a really positive change. Taking an ability for PvE, which is pretty rubbish, I've got to be honest with you, and actually making it useful and getting a 10% damage reduction from it, pretty sick. Enough to make Guardian Druids good? Nah, don't think so. And once again, for whatever reason, they're still trying to get Arcane Mages pumping. So Arcane Missiles damage has been raised by 28%, Arcane Blast damage has been raised by 37%, and Arcane Barrage damage has been raised by 30%. Now, a couple of these changes are actually new. These are not things that have been reverted outside of the Arcane Missiles damage. Arcane Blast and Arcane Barrage, as you can see, they're brand new to Mr. Pandaria. So they're really trying to make it so Frost isn't the only viable spec, which I think is a good thing, don't get me wrong. But Frost isn't the only viable spec. Arcane in Phase 1, once you start to get some gear, was good anyway without these changes. So, like I said when it comes to Hunters, when Marksman got all those buffs last week, I said I kind of think that the meta's going to shift from Survival to Marksman. It hasn't quite, according to the Sims, but it's very close. But I do think Arcane could creep in front of Frost, especially if they keep making these adjustments. Now, when it comes to Fire, if you hadn't heard about the compression tech that was being spread around, there was basically a really cheesy, awful way to be able to get massive combusts by having a second target. I'm not going to go into exactly how it worked, because I'll bore you and it doesn't work anymore, but the way Inferno Blast spreads Ignite has now changed to be more intuitive, so spreading full duration Ignites instead of allowing players to compress Ignites into very large ticks. So again, this is new/bug fix. And what they've said is we're attempting to allow the ability to weave Ignites in hopes it can unlock some interesting gameplay for Fire Mages. Ignite is a notoriously volatile spell, where even the slightest change can have far-reaching consequences, so we're going to monitor this closely. Fire Mages will find a way. The Mistweaver Monk has had a minor change, nothing to get too excited about, but this is new at least. So when Vital misses at 5 stacks, your instant cast of Surging Mist will not reset your swing timer. Now this again is new, this is nothing that was reverted, obviously it's not a bug fix, nothing like that. It's always worked like that, but if you're not sure what it is, every time you Tiger Palm, so this is what costs 1 chi, it's one of your spenders, you're going to get 1 stack of Vital Mists. When you get to 5 stacks, you get an instant cast heal. And if you combine it with a glyph, you haven't got to target anyone either. It's just a smart heal. But now you're going to be able to press that without resetting your swing timer, so happy days. And now Warlock, Affliction. I've not even looked at this, and I'm telling you now, if it's another buff, I'm going to go mental. Haunt's damage increase to your damage over time effects has been lowered. Yes. Haunt's damage increase to your damage over time effects has been lowered back to 35%. It was 40%. And Agony's damage over time lowered by 11%, making the overall increase to Agony during the beta a 5% increase. Yeah, I mean, we could kind of see from the last round of changes that the Affliction Warlock got when I was complaining about which dev plays Affliction. We could see it was too much. So I look forward to having a look at how Affliction Warlocks are now comparing to Destruction Warlocks during the beta, because, again, I refer to Sims a lot, and I do sim any of the classes that currently are simmable because they're not all even in their alpha build yet, but I like to see them in the real setting as well with people I know playing the classes. So Warrior Shattering Throw inside PvE will now be instant cast and doesn't reset your swing timer as well. So this is just to match the Symbiosis version, or should I say the Symbiosis version is to match this, really. And then there's been some bug fixes as well. So for Feral Druid, Dreamer Cenarius will no longer incorrectly consume 2 stacks when using Pounce. Blood Death Knights had a few fixes here where Dancing Rune Weapons damage was incorrectly reduced by 50%. Dancing Rune Weapon's Rune Strike was using the incorrect version. Glyph of Dancing Rune Weapon will now correctly reduce Dancing Rune Weapon's damage by 25%, where it wasn't reducing it at all, and Rune Strike will no longer have an erroneous 10% attack power ratio. Overall, another amazing round of changes. The nerfs to the pets for Blood DKs not getting their vengeance, that's big. The Feral Druid getting the duration of Predatory Swiftness is absolutely amazing, and I do genuinely think if Blizzard carry on, Arcane Mage is probably going to overtake Frost. So if you enjoyed the video, as always, be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you go onto the video section on the channel and check out the last video because there's a giveaway in that video, the whole movie quote theme that I'm going along with all the way up until MoP launches for an upgrade edition. So if you guess the quote and you're the lucky randomly chosen winner, you'll get an upgrade edition on me. So as always, like and subscribe and I will see you on the next one.